So on days like this, when there's baptisms and goodbye liturgies and things added to our service, it becomes short sermon Sunday. So yes, can I get an amen, right? So it'll be short and sweet this morning, which is kind of fitting because the image that came to me as I was preparing, it was a very short and sweet moment in my own life. And it was the day that my nephew came home from the hospital. He had been in the hospital about 2 days. He had just been born. And he was the first grandchild on both sides. And me and my brother and sister and sisters, my sister-in-law as well, were there at their house. And we bathed him in the kitchen sink and then, played the pass the baby. And everyone had their kind of moment to sit with Will, who is now 16 years old, which is a little bit of a, how did that happen? Like, I remember this moment like it was yesterday, and he's literally almost 17 years old now. And I have this moment almost every time a newborn child is placed into my arms, where I look at this life, this new life, and God brings me to this place of just intense hope for them. Knowing full well what truly living means, which is opening ourselves up to all the possibilities that this world holds to us. But really kind of having this grounding moment of hope that throughout life, I hope that Will and that each of my nieces and nephews and the children that are placed in my arms know that they belong, that they're affirmed in their worth, that they have a place to trust and be trusted. The things that we need as human beings. And so it came to this moment where I looked at Will and just had this deep hope for him. Not a naive hope, but a hope based in reality. And it's very much so connected to the gospel that we just read today, where Jesus is talking to his disciples about that force of life that happens outside of our control and that we are a part of, the natural world. That we look around and we see a world where we can find beauty, warmth, and light, where we find shelter, the beautiful and good things about living. And then we also look at the world and think, well, there's also injustice. There are wind storms and ice storms, and there's difficulty. It's not an easy place to be sometimes. And through that, life happens, like a seed being planted, growing into a shrub that houses nature and one another. And I'm going to be Captain Obvious for a second and say we are the seeds, right? Like we're the seeds that God and life nourishes and grows, so that we can then be spaces of belonging and affirmation and trust for other people around us. And so this prayer and blessing for my nephew and for my nieces and for the children in my life really comes from my experience of those times when I know I belong, where I'm affirmed of my wealth and value, where I've trusted someone and they've trusted me, and the maturity and comfort that comes from that. But it also comes from the times in my life where I have not felt that, where I have not felt like I belonged, not been affirmed in my value or worth, where I've trusted someone and they have betrayed me. So I think that to be human, to be fully alive, is to hold both the blessings of life, the times where we have felt like we belong and we're affirmed and we have met someone who we can trust and has proven it to us. It's also holding those times where we know that we feel like we don't belong, where we're not affirmed, and where we're betrayed. And amidst that, it is my prayer that we find that place where we belong and affirmed and trust. And that blessing, though, comes out of both those experiences. For me, my childhood church was my place of belonging and affirmation and community. until they found out I was gay. Deep, deep pain there. And yet, the redemption and my own sense of affirmation and belonging and healing comes from being a part of a community that has done the opposite for me. That has become that place of radical belonging and affirmation and acceptance and celebration. And that is what we seek to be. And we seek to be that as a community and as a church because we've had experiences in both those spaces. One of the ways that we step into being a space of healing rather than harm is through baptism. And this morning we're gonna baptize Georgia. And I think that I'm gonna sound like a heretic for a second. I should get Patrick to turn off the video camera. But like for a long time, baptism was about like this idea that, they're gonna have salvation, and so if they die, they're gonna have eternal security. And I think there's a problem with that. Number one is, I don't believe in a God that would send an infant to eternal punishment because they didn't say some prayer or, that's not the God that we worship and celebrate. What baptism is now is a space where we as a community, and the community that gathers around Georgia, says to her, we are going to be your place, through the ups and downs and the beauty and brokenness and pain of life. We're your people. Whatever you're going through, you have a place to come and belong, where we will affirm you, and where you can trust us, and we'll prove our trust to you. And so that's what we're going to move into now. And so we as a community that surrounds her, and as we as a church, are honored to host this space for you. We're going to gather around the back font at the back, and I think we sing a song. Of course we sing a song. It's one from my camp days as a kid, actually, isn't it? Oh, and so just give us a few moments to get back there and for the family to come, and then all of us will join together around the back font.